right.
I like to doodle. I like to doodle with my noodle. Thoughts in my noodle, I doodle with.
80s. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Scurvivor series. I am your host, Ryan Knightsey, and with me, as always, is the lovely, the beautiful, the newly banged, in terms of hair.
Context.
In terms of hair, Jesse Dubioski. Jesse, how are you doing today?
I got bangs.
You got bangs, gar?
Yeah.
Is that what the kids say?
I don't know.
Yep, yeah. You got a new, you changed up your hairstyle significantly.
I did.
You added bangs.
I bit the bullet.
If you look up a picture of Bryce Dallas Howard with bangs, and then there's a thing, like, it's not like flyaways or whatever, but like
the wispies.
The wispy side sort of strands. I feel like that's a kind of what the hairstyle looks like. And I think it's a good hairstyle.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I very much am excited about it. I did not originally get this haircut.
No. No, this was your second trip back in a week.
Yeah. Well, okay. So in her defense, she doesn't know me, right? Curtain bangs are all the rage. Middle parts are all the rage. I tell her I want something, in the front. She does curtain bangs, and I am too timid to say anything.
And a middle part, too.
And a middle part. Because I think, no, she's a professional. It'll look good on me. And while it did look professionally cut, it did not look good on me.
No.
And I cannot do a middle part. And I chickened out of asking for bangs. And I was like, I'm just going to live with it for a week. And I felt like I looked like a little boy who accidentally got cast in the Handmaid's Tale. And it was not a good look. And so I texted her. And she was like, I'll trim your bangs. That's fine. And she was very nice about it. And we had a good experience. We had a good laugh about it. And now I like my hair.
Let the record show today is the day she got her hair cut. The day she got her hair cut last week, she also liked it. And by the next day, she was upset with it. So
by that evening, I was crying.
By time this episode goes out, you either still love your haircut or you no longer like it.
Last time I said I like it, and then I said, and if you noticed, which you might not have picked up on, I said a lot of things like, yeah, I like it, and I could just do, I could just do this, and I could just pin it back, and it was
already
a lot of
solving issues.
I was trying to convince myself I liked it. This is like, I feel like a cutie patootie.
Yeah, I will say that.
Cute.
I have noticed that difference. You're way more confident is not the word, but it's not the word I'm looking for. But you're not trying to convince yourself.
I'm excited.
You're into what you got.
I feel like a cutie patootie. Mm-hmm. I feel fun.
And man,
I feel like a woman.
80s.
And not a little child, boy.
Well, like always, that's how we transition to talking about Survivor. And I have a good transition, so I just made something up. I hope everyone liked it. If you're listening to us for the first time, welcome. If you're listening on episode 2, interesting.
Yeah,
but
it's very, very interesting choice, but we support you and your decisions.
Welcome to Scurvivor series, the only podcast that is hosted by a married couple talking about Survivor. I bet you there isn't.
Is that true?
I have no idea. How am I supposed to look that up? But it's the only one hosted by us.
Yeah, it's true. Absolutely true. 100%. This is the only podcast hosted by us.
I believe that's correct. And today we're going to talk about episode 2, season 46 of Survivor that just aired, titled Scorpio Energy. We went last week in depth on our thoughts of Jelinski and that whole first episode. Now we get episode 2. We're still at the 90-minute mark. I thought that there was a significant amount of camp life that we were able to see. I still felt confident in my knowledge of who everybody is. I did need a refresher right before we started, but it was very quickly, or I was able to be like, all right, no, I know who everybody is.
Yeah, I did forget some people's names at first, and then I was like, all right, nope, I got this.
Yeah.
There wasn't that thing of like last season where we were like, it's like 6 episodes in, and we're like, I've never seen this person before in my life.
I have that a little bit with the tribe names, but not a whole lot.
What season was Lauren? Bush Girl.
Bush Girl.
Was that last season? We called her Bush Girl for like 4 episodes because we didn't know who she was because it never showed her.
They also never introduced her really to us.
Yeah, they didn't.
I like Josh. Remember Josh, my podiatrist?
Oh, yeah. They barely introduced him, but then they kind of...
Then he got introduced.
Yeah,
really.
well, because his tribe kept losing.
Yeah, but not his tribe.
His tribe. He
swapped.
got traded to that tribe.
What's interesting to me is that...
Swap, not traded.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is that, like, I feel like they have really introduced everybody fairly well. There are still some people that we haven't really gotten to know much of, like, for instance, Jem on Sega. But I still know who she is. She is obviously Jungle Gem. And there are still like things about her that I know, and I've been introduced to her, maybe not necessarily her personality, but she's more of like she's not really a body there, but she is not a body.
Right.
But at least she's a body.
We haven't gotten to know her, but we know who she is.
Yes.
Which is not always the case. Like last season.
I think they are doing a good job this season so far. Any other thoughts about this episode overall? There's a lot of camp life.
A lot of yeah. No.
Yeah.
I have 0 thoughts. We should just end the podcast here.
Okay, there we
I
go.
got no thoughts on anything.
And that's this
okay, bye.
Let's start off. Post Jelinski vote at Yamu.
.com.
Yamu. Is it Yamu, right? I'm doing a whole bit.
I think it's Yanu.
Is it Yanu? I have an M in my thing. It is Yanu.
It's Yanu, Siga, and Nami.
Banu meditates because he's paranoid. Wants a strong position in his tribe. And basically wants a strong position between... He does have a strategic part of him here where he's saying, I want a strong position with Kenzie, Q, and Tiff because he knows he's kind of on the outs. He wants to try to get a stronger position so that Jess can go home. He talks to Kenzie. Kenzie says in an interview that Banu is a bad liar and a liability. She's referencing Banu kind of giving away the... there's a phrase here, giving away the ghost... I think that applies, of they were planning on voting out Jelinski, and she thinks he's a bad liar and liability, which comes up significantly later in the episode.
It's going to be a problem for him.
Yeah, I guess not significantly later in the episode at Tribal Council, but it comes up for a second time at Tribal Council.
Yeah, he's a little like... I don't think emotional is the right word. Like, they keep saying he's too emotional. Yes, he's emotional. He's too, like, sincere.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't...
There's no filter.
There's no faking it with Banu, and there's no filter. But he's too sincere. I don't think the emotions is what's the problem.
But I also I would apply all these no filter, all these things to like Carolyn or something. But I also don't think Carolyn's not sincere. I think it's just Carolyn does have the ability to turn off thoughts from going to the outside, and Carolyn almost has a filter. Banu very much doesn't have a filter, maybe what I would say. Q and Tiff discuss Kenzie's social game, a sort of thread of this episode. Q is worried a little bit about her, and later in the episode it comes up that Jess is very much worried about Kenzie, and becomes a sort of thread. Go right ahead. You can always just jump in. You don't have to look at me and point like.
Well, this is kind of like we've already moved on from it.
Well, go ahead.
But I think what I enjoy, weirdly enough, about everyone complaining that Banu is too emotional, is that we finally have a storyline where they're complaining about someone being too emotional, and it's not a woman.
Great point.
Like, I can appreciate.
Great point.
I can appreciate that. This is happening to a man. I mean, I still think the argument that, like, you're too emotional to play Survivor is kind of stupid. I understand this scenario where it's like, is it causing him to not have a filter and not be able to, like, keep a lid on things? I don't know if it's the emotions. I think it's just that he also doesn't have a filter. Yeah. But it is nice that for once it's not a woman.
Yeah. I agree with that. Tiff calls Yanu a bunch of losers. Kenzie cries, talking about the difficulties of Survivor, and shows off her blue eyes when she cries. So we'll get up, and that's just like, I'll have a lot of different like points that are literally just camp life. So I'll be moving quickly probably. At Nami, Everyone is bonding. Tevin says he's a line of Hunter and Soda, but he's unsure about Venus. Soda and Tevin discuss Venus. Soda has distanced herself from Venus. That's the thing we learned this episode, is that we realized that Soda is concerned about Venus. We saw in episode 1 helping Venus a little bit. Now she's distanced herself. Venus says that she's recognized that Soda has distanced herself. She said something along the lines of like, when you realize that one of the most social people out here is not really talking to you, that's bad.
Yeah, which like, and Soda, like, is even like distancing herself not because she doesn't trust her, but like solely because she sees how everyone else feels about her, and she knows that like that could put a target on her back if she's the only one that sides with Venus.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Venus also says that she fully recognizes that she's on the outs of the tribe. That's sort of a thread with Venus this episode, and Nami as a whole, really. That Venus is just on the outside of the tribe, to the point where like sometimes they just kind of ignore her, whether on purpose.
Which is like so sad to watch.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of times you see like people being threats, like they show like, you know, people acting weird around them. But this is like people like kind of pretending like she's not there.
Yeah.
Which is so hurtful. Like, that was so sad to watch.
I agree. She goes on and kind of give her parents and her backstory of everything, of this idea of presenting and needing to be strong. And she says that what's interesting, and I really like this, that she sort of says that it's difficult for her to open up because it's very obvious who these kind of people are on her tribe when Tevin and Soda are people in there, that people want her to be open up and bubbly and all this stuff, or she feels like people want that from her, that perspective, like not perspective, but that perception of her, that they want her to be this thing. But she's like, I've always just had to be a strong person and always felt like I needed to be a strong individual, that I don't know how. I've always been forced to put up walls for whatever reasons, but I don't know how to not have them. Which I like as an idea and I like as a character moment, because what it does ultimately is I hope we see Venus for the long haul, because that is ripe for character growth for Venus. So I just want to
kind
put
of like
a
an
pin
Emily
in that
moment where it's like she's not necessarily too abrasive for people. It's kind of the opposite, where she's too like closed off for people.
Yeah.
So like hopefully we'll see some development.
That being said,
but it would take someone reaching out, and which happened with Emily and Caleb,
and
which seemed
kind of Venus this episode
could be her and Randon teaming up could give her enough confidence to open up to people.
But I will say, in the defense of the rest of her tribe, what we see from this episode is less of her opening up and start turning to active disdain and hatred of the rest of her tribe.
Like, I'm done with these people.
Yeah. So, no, she's mad that, like, no one else opens up, and so she just takes out, basically, on everybody.
Yeah.
In a way. At Sega, they get fire, because now they won their gimmick. Ben cries over making fire. He gives his life story of music making him who he is. That's why he's such a musician. Tim feels good with an alliance of Charlie and Ben. And I wrote down, once Maria out, JK, they want to work with Maria. We thought that Tim really was gunning for like Maria and whatnot in this girls' alliance because Maria had the extra vote. Instead, they know that they have to bring in an extra vote, obviously, because it's 3 versus 3 currently. So he wants to bring in Maria, someone who already has power and an advantage. So I guess that kind of makes sense, but I was just kind of shocked from Tim saying that. Charlie describes his sort of power position. Thank you for the air horns.
Did you get any emails about the air horn?
Oh, I'd never checked. I'll check it in a while.
We'll have to do a side quest.
Yes, I'll check it in a moment. But the
Jerry, I'm counting on you.
But
anyway,
so he describes his power position, where he's the sort of idea of like he recognizes that he's in between these two groups, but he also recognizes, and part of his power position is he recognizes that he lost my train of thought. He recognizes that like if he went with the girl group, it's unclear if the guy group, but if he went with the girl group, it's very obvious that he's at the bottom of that group.
Yeah.
By being the one guy. So they can get out Tim and Ben, but if they lose too much, then he would be next. So he decides he wants to fully align with Maria, which he sort of does. They create a sub-alliance, which ultimately what the sub-alliance does is that it brings Maria also into a power position. Mm-hmm. Her and Charlie, in between a Charlie's Angels group and the boys playing with the boys group plus Maria, which
is ultimately like a great move for them because
a great move for Maria and Charlie. Obviously.
Yeah, you can really like don't have to commit. That's what I mean for Charlie and Maria.
Yeah,
like if they commit to being, it's kind of like Drew and Austin earlier, where like a little less so of this, but like they were aligned with like Dee and Julie.
Yeah.
But they were ultimately like the driving force of like had they wanted to, they could have
split off from them
and
they were the sub-alliance
yeah.
there. And sort of Dee and Julie was also the sub-alliance in of itself as well. But it's great because it was a smart move for Charlie because what he's done in this sub-alliance is possibly put himself in a position where he isn't fourth in the Charlie's Angels group.
Right, because Maria would vouch for him.
But potentially, yeah.
Yeah, and then if it comes down to the four of them, it could be him and Maria versus the other two.
Yes, because she has an
He's
extra
opening
vote.
up avenues for him to not be at the bottom of anything.
And she has an extra vote.
Yeah.
So they just need the two of them. And they can get out Jem or Mariah, both on my team, by the way. I looked at the email. No emails.
Okay, I am very disappointed in all of you. And if you think for 1 second that I wouldn't dare to ask again, you're wrong. So here's your opportunity to make my dreams come true. Get me an air horn button. Jerry, I'm counting on you.
We just need 3 emails, I think.
No, you said 2.
Oh, I said 2?
Yeah, so Jerry, Ryan, email the email. Get me an air horn button, people.
Scurvivor series at gmail.com. SCURVIVOR series at gmail.com.
Hashtag give Jesse an air horn button.
It's literally the email. It's literally the name of the podcast.
Yeah, it's almost like you guys don't want me to have an air horn button, and I don't understand why that would be a thing. I have no idea why. I mean, but if not, I'll just continue to do this thing. The and that's more obnoxious, I feel like. So just think about that for forever.
At Nami, Venus looks for the idol. Randon does too, and Hunter. But ultimately, Randon finds the Beware Advantage box. It's the same exact thing that Tiffany got, where it's, the idol's in this box, but you can't get the location of the key until after you lose a challenge.
I think they want someone to throw a challenge.
Yeah, I'm interested in it. I think if anyone Randon, what might be.
I think they're trying to see how far people, like how many times they would wait and if they would throw a challenge to get their idol.
The difficulty in that is like, it's almost like why throw a challenge? Because it's either I lose and I get my vote back almost immediately, presumably, hopefully, or we continuously win. You know what I mean?
But then you can't get the idol.
Yeah.
Like once you hit the merge, you can't get that idol.
Yeah. And I assume, yeah,
and then
I guess
you don't have a merge.
That's a fair question. What happens at the merge if he's unable to get the idol? That's actually a good question because does he just lose his vote? Surely he gets his vote back. Maybe there was a set in the Beware Advantage. I don't recall. But,
no, I don't think so.
If you have an answer for that, Scurvivor at gmail.com. At Yanu, Jess is eating ants. I wrote down, I love her.
I love Jess.
She's just...
so sad. I want to see more of her.
Everyone just kind of talks about how quirky and weird she is. She tells the story of her marriage to try and purposely open herself up to the group. She sort of laments that maybe I should have done this earlier.
Okay, also quickly, they call her a weirdo for eating ants. Banu ate ants on like day 1.
I thought he did as well.
He did?
Yeah. I don't know. She's so quirky.
She's so quirky. Quirky.
Kenzie goes on a walk with Banu and Jess, and attempts to do some sort of friendship strategic move because she recognizes that Q and Tiff are close and as strong players. And so she pitches to Jess and Banu, we should maybe form up and get rid of Q and Tiffany while we have the opportunity. And the response to that is Banu doesn't really respond in any capacity. He just seems nonplussed by the whole interaction. But Jess responds negatively.
She's like, I really have to think
about it.
No, she says, I have to think about how I think about, or what I think about that.
Yeah. And we see in the interview is that she's like, man, Kenzie's playing the game really hard, very strategic, and very, very social. Maybe we should get Kenzie out. So Kenzie's move here was to try to do a three-way alliance where they try to vote out Q and Tiff. And instead it backfired to the sense where Jess is now gunning for her as Jess's first target here. In a very, very interesting way. Any thoughts on that dynamic, I guess?
It's like, I understand Jess's hesitation, right? Because...
would it have been smart for her to not have that hesitation and go work with Kenzie? Do you think Kenzie would have ultimately worked with them?
That's the question. She's probably wondering, is this a trap? Is this, is she sussing something out? I wonder if it'd be easier for Jess to have aligned herself with Kenzie and Banu and, turned on Tiff and Q than what she tried to do, which is align herself with Tiff and Q, who, I don't think she knows how hard they're gunning for her. But, from a perspective, assuming that she doesn't know that, you have two really strong players who are aligned together. What makes you think that they would bring you along other than wanting to be with you in the final three so that you make them look better? But we still have the merge. So, they have plenty of opportunities to find someone else to be that third person, right? Yeah. So, what is the motivation for her thinking that that's a better bet than aligning with someone who is also kind of on the outs and then a third person who is a strong player? Because, if I were Jess, I'd be like, why would Tiff and Q want me around?
Yeah.
They're strong players. They probably want to get Kenzie out because she's a strong player, but, why would they want me around? Because I'm probably not the strongest player.
Especially after
I probably won't do challenges. I don't know what her
especially after the challenge, because after the challenge she tries to align herself with Tiff, and it's no, girl, that's the exact wrong person to try to align with in this moment.
I think maybe her thought was they won't see me as a threat, but I don't know. I don't see how that would have worked either.
Yeah.
I think you have a better bet of plus then you're the bottom of that alliance.
Oh yeah.
Right? Where here you at least have a chance against Banu because you guys are kind of in a similar boat. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think she really, I don't know. I would love to hear her perspective in interviews of what her strategy was, because it doesn't feel like she had one.
No.
Which I think Kenzie also
felt the same.
Yeah.
But I think there's one interesting aspect to it all is that Jess is obviously worried about Kenzie. She pitches that to Q, who has previously been worried about Kenzie, so sort of affirming his thoughts on Kenzie with Jess. I think the one possible reason why Jess wasn't too interested in working with Kenzie, I don't recall it ever being shown in episode 1, but I think it's a plausible possibility.
That's redundant.
That maybe she had a prior, she felt that her strongest relationship was with Q or something. And she didn't want to get rid of Q. And it could be because she could have maybe guessed that Kenzie would want to get rid of Q first or something. I don't know. I just know that she goes to Q and she doesn't want to work with Kenzie to get Q potentially out. So maybe there's something there. At Sega, everyone gets nicknames. Charlie and Ben have a song title off. This is captivating television. They go 100+ songs, with Ben ultimately losing in a song title off because, as he said, Metallica had too much bad music that he didn't know about. And he loses at 106 songs. I'm getting burpy.
You got the burgers.
I got the
You
Berbers.
got the burgers.
Yeah, this was a very captivating television. Honestly, I thought it was fun camp life to see Charlie try to name as many song titles for Taylor Swift and name ultimately 108.
Remember when you said you thought the Swiftie thing was a front?
I don't think I recall it saying it was a front.
I think you were like, like so many people say they're Swifties or whatever, but like, there's no way he was lying about that.
I don't recall myself calling it a front, but I definitely thought maybe he was leaning too much into it, and it's like, oh no. This is his personality, is he's a Swiftie. 108 song titles. This is your personality.
Yeah.
I also don't blame Ben. Ben probably really likes Metallica and they have a deep discography. But like he's like, oh, I'm not too into their bad music and all this stuff. And Charlie's like, oh, Taylor Swift has no bad music. And I just saw like, oh yeah, he's a diehard stan.
He's a Swiftie for sure.
We're not gonna play the game because it will take up way too much time for the show. But if we play this game, Jesse, which band do you think you can name the most song titles for?
Here's the problem, right? Is I don't know names.
You never do.
I don't know names of actors. I don't remember names of songs. I think Lights. I think I could name them. I think I know more songs of other artists, but hers, for some reason, I actually know the names of.
Yeah. For me, I think you can guess which one it is. For me?
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah. It'd be the Chili Peps. Maybe a second is like Childish Gambino or something, but it's 100% the Chili Peps at number one. I think I would crush you probably in the Lights competition.
Well, let's do it. Let's go.
No, it's going to take way too long.
Let's go. Can we just talk about real quick though that there was one cameraman whose whole job during that was to just go back and forth. And like he started probably doing that motion thinking this won't go that long.
This will last maybe 30.
He's like, this is great. This is fantastic. And then about 30 songs in, he's like, fuck me. Fuck me. Fuck me. Fuck this life. Just going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah. He needed to take a break after that.
Because they actually...
They just kept going. It just kept going. At NAMI, we get a mention from Liz talking about her wealth. Everyone is sort of baffled by her and just her whole deal, I guess.
Listen, I understand, like... I get, the confidence, right? Why are you bragging about having so much money around people who are trying to beat you for $1 million?
I know.
Why do you think that's a good idea?
We get sort of this like villain turn from Liz in a weird way.
It's like a Sunshine and Rainbow villain. It's like, what's the... Shoot. What's...
I have no idea.
There's like... from Harry Potter, the like one who like...
Harry Potter.
She's a villain, but she like... has this like creepy positivity. The one with the cats and the what's her name? That lady.
Yes, I vaguely know who you're talking about.
Don't come at me, Harry Potter people. I'm sorry.
Stands.
I'm sorry.
Everyone's sort of baffled by her. She says during an interview of like, winning the game is more of a title. I don't need the money. The money won't improve my life. It would be nice to have it, but I don't need it. And I'm like, this is a villain in the same way that billionaires are villains.
And like, if you keep talking out loud like this, which like, this is an interview, but she has said multiple times that she has money. Like, what do you think that's gonna do for you?
Yeah,
I think you might be making a short list of people that they feel no guilt voting out because you clearly don't need the money.
100%. If was it Siga? No, Nami. If Nami went to tribal council, I think it 100% is between Venus and Liz.
Yeah, because they would not feel any guilt about voting her out because like she's not here because she wants to win $1 million.
Yeah,
like everybody wants to be there, and sure, it's okay to like want to be there for different reasons, but when you're so vocal about, like they're not going to feel bad.
We talked about Venus before and about her play style, I guess, and how she's sort of frustrated. Here we get a moment where Randon says he doesn't trust anybody, but maybe the person that he needs to work with is someone he didn't trust with on day one, and that is Venus. So he decides to want to work with Venus. He tells Venus about his advantage that he has, or his beware advantage currently. And Venus wants to work with him and is very relieved that someone wants to work with her. Now, this being said, Venus did not go out and cultivate this relationship. Venus complained that it's very hard for her to be strong and no one wants to work with her, but she didn't do anything to change that for her. Randon,
then she said, people look at me and think I've had everything handed to me, and in this situation,
she is handed an alliance. Because Randon is like, oh, I'm gonna need numbers if a vote came down to it, so let me maybe bring in Venus because I don't really like anybody else. So I don't know. I don't know, folks. Venus hasn't really done anything to help her cause in any aspect, I think. Now she just has someone that wants to basically use it more as like using her as numbers, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
And then they need to bring in obviously someone else. Randon's gonna have to bring in somebody else. And
well, this is how you get Soda back on board, is that Soda's no longer the one.
Yeah, but don't forget about Sodar. So does Sodar about Randon. So Soda doesn't work with Randon. If anything, the person that they're going to have to bring in is like Hunter or Liz. And I don't know. I
don't know what you do there.
We get to the immunity challenge. The immunity challenge is also a reward challenge for fishing gear. We get a lot of trash talk.
That's the most...
to start this immunity challenge.
What is happening?
Trash talk about Jelinski. Charlie makes a great line. They talk about, obviously, Jelinski was voted off. Charlie has a great line where he says, was there several reasons you voted Jelinski off? Which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Which
wasn't really trash talk, but that was like a joke, and then everybody else turned it into trash talk.
I don't recall exactly what prompted this, but there was a moment where Soda says something, and then Q sort of responds of like, he very QB-like. QB-like, which is what he's going for, of like, it's all about winning and getting the team, and, it's going to be about, of course, their 6 was able to beat our 6, but will our 5 beat their 5? Soda gets not like offended, but like responds in a very trash-talky way, where she responds to it, and then kind of like attacking Q and Yanu a little bit, and then she says, how's the food? In reference to the fact that they've never won and they don't have fire and all this stuff.
And then somebody, I think was it Venus, who was like, settle down.
Yeah, Venus, I think it was Venus, was like, settle down. She's like, nah, he started it. I'm like, no, he didn't. Q did not start this.
He did not.
He's doing what he does, which is, yeah, can they beat our... He admits that he's putting y'all over by admitting that you beat our 6, but now it's a test of, can your 5 beat our 5? Which obviously the truth is, no. We've come to find out the answer is still no. But it's ridiculous that Soda is such like... Soda, baffles me in some ways. I'm unsure about her.
I feel like we may never know if she's going to make it because, like, they may never lose. After the merge, I feel like she might have some issues.
Possibly.
She's going to rub somebody the wrong way, which I've said I feel like from the beginning.
Yeah.
That she's going to rub somebody the wrong way.
I think...
And Q already is one of those people.
There is something to...
she doesn't know the position that he's in, that, that could really come back to bite her.
Yeah. It will either be... I don't think it'll be next episode, but maybe... It's either going to be next episode or episode 4, where we're probably going to get a tribe swap. I wouldn't be surprised. I am very intrigued about who would get swapped, because I feel like Venus would be an interesting person to be swapped. Soda or Tevin would be very fascinating to be swapped, all from Nami. There's a lot of interesting people that I think...
I think Tevin could be one of those people, like a Caleb, where he gets swapped to another tribe and thrives because he can thrive anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I am very intrigued to see if we do a tribe swap. Not tribe swap, but basically a tribe swap. And there are several people that could thrive in a different tribe, I think. Venus claims it later in the episode, but I don't necessarily know if she'll thrive based
I
on her
don't
performance, but we'll see. So the immunity challenge, basically you have to release a machete from like this knot thing, cut down a rope, get some wheels for a cart, dig up some boxes, put that on your cart, build that cart, go through a maze with said cart, and then get to the end, open up your boxes. It's going to be a bunch of puzzle pieces, and you have to build a giant arch puzzle that basically is going to be a puzzle that spells perseverance. Right?
Yeah.
Persistence. Two people sitting out are Mariah for Siga and Liz for Nami. Any thoughts on this immunity challenge here?
Oh, so many thoughts.
Go right ahead.
Liz.
Nami, Nami, Nami. I don't even know what she's singing. Nami, 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 Nami.
Oh my God. I appreciate her enthusiasm.
Yeah, she's cheerleading over
Is
there.
all I will say. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
Is I acknowledge her enthusiasm. I am also trying now to look up what Liz's net worth is.
I don't know what her last name is.
And what her businesses are, but we'll get back to that. Why? So, lots of thoughts. And in particular, Jess, that just walking through most of it, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, why are they putting the shortest person in the middle?
Yeah, so there's ultimately who wins? Nami wins, Siga gets second, Yanu loses. There's a lot of blame immediately put on Jess. Granted, there are points where Jess is sort of walking around, not really helping or doing anything. There's a moment where she's kind of dropping boxes, but there isn't really like planning when it comes to this box stuff because like you said, there's that middle piece where Jess is trying to put it up and she's the shortest. There's no way that she could do this. And it's not unfounded scapegoating, but there's a little bit of scapegoating where everyone just immediately starts blaming Jess for Yanu losing.
Which to I think is unfair for it to totally be considered her fault.
Yeah, I think there's poor leadership involved as well. You know, we have the moment of Q at a certain point just tries to take over the challenge, takes over the puzzle. And his leadership is very, this is what you're doing. I'm telling you what to do. Where like all the other tribes, they were very communicative and talking to each other. You see Venus doing that a lot during the challenges, where they're like talking to each other actively. And Yanu was just sort of like falling apart literally and just like kind of, oh, you can't do this. No, okay, now I'm going to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And then everyone just sort of blames Jess for falling. Like, again, like, I don't think Jess is without the faults in this challenge. She definitely screwed up a lot, but they're only pointing fingers at her and not pointing fingers at maybe Banu or Q or Tiff. Like, everyone is just trying to get the challenge done. But as Banu points out, which I think is partly correct, he said that there was just no sort of planning that they had. They had a very good strategy where they solved the puzzle before they started putting up, but there was no planning on how to put it up. And it just, no one could figure it out, and everyone just fell apart.
And like,
everyone got mad at each other, especially Tiff.
Yeah. And again, like, putting it on the person who's like the shortest person in the middle, and like, it was just chaos. And I think it was unfair to like say it was all Jess's fault.
Yeah. Tiff is very pissed.
They didn't come together as a group.
No. And I saw Nami is a group, as a challenge squad. They're very communicative, like I said. Venus, there was a moment where I explicitly pointed out Venus of like, oh, she's communicating in these challenges.
They didn't listen all the time, but she did communicate.
There's a point where they try to communicate and didn't listen. But
like they all struggled too. Like But the difference was like,
this is a long ass challenge,
right?
This puzzle, especially.
They were all frustrated, but they were all like still working together. Like you saw, like with Nami, get to a point of like they're also dropping a couple times, but then there's like a point where I don't know who it was, but they were like, Hunter, I need you to swap out with me. Or like, can you swap out with me? And they've swapped out. Or like, do you have this? Like communication like that versus like put it there and then getting mad when something doesn't happen.
And there was no finger pointing in any of those drops, I feel like, in Nami or Siga.
Yeah. It's just they acknowledge that like the challenge is hard. And like things would fall, but like they would just figure it out. I don't know. There was communication of like what they needed from each other versus Yanu's version of communication is people yelling at other people to do things.
Yeah.
Not a team communicating what they need from each other.
Yeah.
Which the other two did better.
Nami was great at it, and Siga was also very good at it.
Which, if you look at it, it's like those are the two tribes with like a healthy camp life. Granted, they are the ones that have food.
True. They have less stress right now than anybody else. They haven't actually played Survive. The thing we've watched in the past 2 seasons.
Yano actually has to spend this time strategizing because they're the ones going to tribal council, which is the unfortunate thing that happens, which means they're not getting this honeymoon phase of like getting to know each other and having a great time because they are
camping and stuff.
Yeah, they've been forced multiple times in a row to strategize and to be the ones voting someone out and to be the ones saving their own butts. So, like, they don't get this camaraderie that everyone else has, which is, honestly, I feel like affecting the challenges.
Yeah. Can we talk about that now? I think now's a good transition for this point and this talking point that I've been thinking about. It's only the second episode, and things could change in the next episode, but it feels unlikely. This is the third season in a row where we've had sort of what feels like significant loser tribe. Obviously, the Lulu losers last year, and then Tika the year before that. This is the third season in a row where they've had a loser tribe, and they've had a similar situation where it almost feels like this. What did you describe it? Honeymoon period for all these other tribes, and they'll get to experience the game until merge. Do you think that is a issue with casting and an issue with tribe development? Or, if we put our conspiracy caps on, do you think that is something that the producers are actively trying to create, since it's been 3 in a row, to maybe potentially fill more of that 90-minute slot?
I don't know why they would, though, because it gets boring watching the same tribe go to council or tribal council. Mm-hmm. And, like, people have complained about that. And, like, I don't know. It feels like it would be a bad producing decision to deliberately do that, again, because that doesn't make for interesting television. It does initially.
It worked with Tika, because ultimately the Tika 3 were the final 3.
Yeah, it works initially, but then after a while, people get bored.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see somebody else. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's just like there's something happening in the casting and putting together of these tribes that is maybe making things lopsided.
Yeah.
It's almost like, you know...
I really don't know what the, and that's maybe something that I can look up, but this idea of how they put the tribes together. Obviously, casting is a rigorous process, but how do they place the tribes in their position? Is it completely random? Is it specifically they try to cast each tribe as well, not just the players individually? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how do the tribes come together? Because coming together and having 3 failing tribes 3 seasons in a row is, I don't know. I think this is the last. If it happens next season, where we have another losing tribe, something has to change in the process. This season, it's the 3rd one. I'd be happy. I'll be fine with it or whatever. But if it happens again next season, I would be very frustrated as a fan watching the show.
And, like, this is only the 2nd day, so it might not continue, but...
It just feels like
it's gonna.
People are already calling Yanu the next generation of Tika and Lulu on Twitter.
Yeah.
So it's not good. Let's move it along. At Nami, everyone is celebrating except for Venus because her toe was crushed during the challenge. Tevin is sort of tired of that nonsense. Venus voices her concerns to Soda, but Soda says that she doesn't really want to baby her. Doesn't want to baby her, but doesn't really acknowledge or like apologize really or anything. Just sort of like, I don't want to baby her, and then sort of just complains about it to Tevin. So you're not really babying her, but also not respecting her, in my opinion, Soda. Again, I can understand where Venus... That's the thing. Venus, I can understand where all of her complaints come from.
Yeah, it's like I don't necessarily agree with how she's handling the situation either, but like I also... Like I see... It feels like at least what she's experiencing feels like valid versus... And like... The other stuff, like people like not liking her or whatever, feels like it's out of nowhere. And it could just be that we're not seeing it.
Yeah.
But it feels like how people are treating her is out of nowhere.
If I were Venus, I would, over this many different things, she ultimately also brings up that Soda, when they win, I noticed this in their first episode, where Nami wins, Jeff gives the idol to Venus, Soda takes it out of her hands and gives it to Hunter, and so that they can all touch it. This same sort of thing...
Like, snatches it.
The same sort of thing happens in this second episode, where Soda is given the idol. Venus is given the idol. Soda tries to grab it for Venus. Venus stops her from grabbing it, but then turns around to do we all won. And Randon looks at her and says, no, you can hold it. You also won. It's okay for you to hold it. She'll try to like boost her confidence a little bit. But the same situation happens where Soda...
But like she still kind of feels like weird about it.
And like I get it. Venus is maybe not the best and maybe she complains or yada, yada, yada. But between her toe getting crushed by no one really hearing her, just kind of being ignored at camp and no one want to work with her in any capacity, Soda listening to her thoughts but not like apologizing or like doing anything about it, just kind of complaining about that to other people, Soda acting this way. If I was Venus, I would feel very disrespected and be very frustrated to the rest of this tribe.
And it's like she may like be complaining or whatever, but like I kind of feel like she has like a valid point.
Yeah.
Like you may not like how she's acting, and that's fair, but also like she doesn't like how you are acting and she's feeling disrespected and like ignored. And it's a weird response to be like, I'm not going to baby her. It's like, well, I feel like what happened was she like brought up to you something that happened that you did and you didn't want to acknowledge that you did it. So you're just saying, oh, I don't want to baby her.
You're ignoring her.
Yeah.
You're actively ignoring her. Because it's not just that you're not babying her, you're not even giving her the time of day or being respectful and validating her feelings and her frustrations. Yeah, Tevin says something about like, I'm over it. We won. Who cares? She cares.
Yeah.
Her feelings are hurt. You should validate her feelings.
It's all negated because you won.
Yeah. It doesn't matter because we won. Yeah. Oh, I'm not going to baby her. She's frustrated. She's upset. No one's giving her any time of day.
Yeah. And it feels like, yeah, again, I get the whole, like, we may not be seeing all of it, but the fact that, she at least, like, had the guts to, like, say something about it and not just, like, stew and be mad at everybody. Like, she said something.
Yeah.
And still they were like, who cares?
Yeah.
It's weird.
I should say the immunity challenge was the last of Siga that we see this episode. Nothing is happening over there. They're just having a fun camp life episode. Nami is the one where we get a lot of the drama with Venus. So I guess any thoughts on the Siga tribe and Nami tribe before we move into Yanu and them figuring out what's happening before tribal council? How do you think they're doing as a tribe?
Nami.
We kind of just talked about Nami or Venus. Is that like Venus? It feels almost very disrespected at this point. No one's giving her the time of day. She's very angry at people, and Siga is just doing great. They're just having a fun time.
Just having fun.
Yeah,
living the dream.
They're living. They got that tattooed on their butt.
They're living la vida loca.
Living la vida Siga. We get to Yanu. We're going to stick with this tribe for the rest of the episode. Tiff breaks down. She doesn't want to come off like the angry black girl to the other tribes when they drop the puzzles and she loses and everything. And she gets very upset, specifically at Jess. She's very upset to the point where she says that, like, speaking of disrespect a little bit, she's like, I don't even think Jess cares. Now there's an argument that maybe Jess doesn't care, but she's like, I don't want to work with her, someone who doesn't want to be here. That sort of mentality is what she's bringing into this. It then becomes a thing where Tiff, mostly Kenzie, decide to create a fake idol and to give it to Jess, to not have her play her shot in the dark. Kenzie and Tiff construct this fake idol. They then plant it exactly where Tiff found her beware advantage, and Tiff talks with Jess to try to go idol hunting, which Tiff describes as sort of pulling teeth because Jess didn't seem too interested in looking for idols to try to save her right now. Which again, it just like, it becomes this thing of like, is Jess not all there? Like, is Jess dumb or something? Like,
I think she just is not,
she's
like,
so oblivious.
She's not
to
in
things.
game mode.
Yeah.
You know? She's in, like, new experience mode.
I don't know what she never turned game mode on, I think, at any point.
I don't think she did.
So yeah, they try to find that fake idol. Tiff really tries to have Jess find this fake idol. Jess is like, I don't think it's over here, and then just goes off and does her own thing. And so they fail. Q decides, you know what, give me the fake idol. I'm going to give it straight to Jess, which he does. But he says in the thing afterwards, and I thought this was a great move, Q says that he knows what Jess wants, and he says that he can control Jess and Banu and use both of their votes to have majority. So he uses this opportunity to work with his tribe, work with Kenzie and Tiff, to put himself into the power position by giving the idol to Jess, knowing that Jess can vote for whoever he says, knows that he can get Banu to do the same, so he can ultimately decide, if he wants to, who can go home. That he and the majority can have Jess, him, and Banu vote what he is probably going to do, Kenzie. That is a masterful strategic play if I've ever seen one.
Does he utilize it? Not really.
We'll get to that. Banu cuts himself with the machete before the trial. Jess questions to Q if the idol is even real, but she sort of says, like, it doesn't really matter if it's real or not. I have no choice. I have to play it no matter what.
Yeah.
She talks to Kenzie and Tiff, and they quote-unquote decide Banu. She's trying to basically... Jess talks to Q and say they need to bring in a third, and Jess says we should bring in Tiff, someone who actively doesn't like her and wants to vote her out. Terrible idea. So she tries to talk to Tiff about maybe voting for Kenzie, which, as we've sort of established earlier in the episode, she might be intrigued into doing, but ultimately Kenzie joins them at the water well, making the whole excursion not. They then discuss Banu, and the reasons for getting rid of Banu is that Banu is very emotional. Jess tells this to Q and Banu. I wrote down, Banu takes it emotionally personal.
Yeah.
To that response. He gets very upset about it.
Okay, to my earlier point, like, he is an emotional being. But, like, that's not really your issue. Your issue is that he can't keep a lid on it when he needs to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bigger issue.
Yeah.
Q wants Tiffany to be on the same page as her. They talk about kind of how Kenzie wants Q out. So it sort of sets up this idea where Q is in the driver's seat. He's in not the driver's seat, sorry. He's in the power position. Where he can
wouldn't that be much better with a real air horn?
Where he can basically decide, do I want to get Jess out, which in my opinion is a short-term decision, or do I want to get Kenzie out, a threat that is a full-on long-term decision?
Which is, like, great, except we're in this position that we were before with, was it Tika or Lulu? Where it's like there is a person who might actively be the reason that you're not winning challenges.
Mm-hmm. You don't have your Flint.
Yeah. And it's it's one of those things where, like, Jess is not a strong challenge player, so I get that. But also, like, is getting rid of Jess going to change the fact that they don't know how to work as a team?
Yeah. If they
Maybe
lose,
it will, and if it does, good for them.
but if they lose again, it wasn't Jess. Jess is not helpful. And maybe you can make an argument that Jess was actively against it. But
well, no, Jess wasn't like a detriment. Like, there was one person.
I think you can make an argument that she's a detriment.
I would think Jolinsky was a detriment.
Fully agree with that.
Like, I don't think she's actively, like, tanking that. Like, with Brandon last season.
Sure.
He wore jeans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
Okay. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, he wore jeans. He doesn't know how to climb a ladder.
Okay.
He has a hot girlfriend.
The way that you respond. What?
Yeah, he has a hot girlfriend. I'll pull it up on Instagram.
Okay, please.
It's like, no offense to Brandon. Weird. It's like, whoa.
There was like, this person is probably actively tanking your mission, or not missions, challenges. But like with Jess, it's kind of like she's just not helpful in some ways. But I don't think that she's like in the way. But so like maybe it was a bad idea to go for Kenzie now because you do have a person that's like not quite committing the way that everybody else is. But at the same time, Kenzie ain't gonna save you later. And you know it. And I'm stalling while Ryan looks up Brandon's hot girlfriend. And I kind of want to see if he's telling the truth. And meanwhile, I'll talk to you about, what tribe is this? Yanu. And how teamwork really does make the dream work. And I feel like if your first impulse is to blame one person for all of your problems, I think maybe that person might be a problem, but I think you're all fixating on it because you're all not willing to acknowledge that you don't work together as a team. That's all I'm saying. So with Jess out of the way, what are y'all going to do?
I believe this is the picture of his girlfriend. I believe this is her. There's a better picture somewhere, but the meme is out there that she's more attractive than Brandon. That's the meme. But also, and to be fair, that's a good picture of Brandon.
That is a good picture of Brandon. I think so too. But I don't know. There's some good. He's a little cutie.
He's a little cutie. There's better pictures of him. I think it's also colored by the whole survivorness of it. There's pictures of him with shorter hair, which I almost like more.
Yeah, like he's a little cutie patootie.
Yeah, I think there's better pictures, I think, on Twitter or something. But the meme.
But based on Survivor, Brandon.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, how'd you pull that?
Yeah. If I'm going strictly off of Survivor, Brandon, I'm like, what the heck?
We get into Tribal Council. Really, there's just a sort of convo of we need to win. So they sort of talk about that short term, long term of we need to figure out how to win. That's more important right now. Kenzie and Jess get into a tiff. Not Tiffany, but a fight about Kenzie as a threat. And Jess kind of throws Kenzie out as a threat, throws the bus, and Kenzie gets upset that she did that. Banu gets very heated about info he heard about being emotional. Obviously, this is info Jess told him. Banu spells out that they're voting Jess out. That even Jeff picks up on. It was like, Banu, you just talked about that he talked with Kenzie, Q, and Tiffany. You did not specify Jess at all. Basically getting to a point where Q ends up saying, it's time to vote. And then there's a conversation basically where all of them are trying to actively tell Banu, yeah, but you can have these thoughts and be emotional, but there's also a thing of you don't have to say every single thought at all because you're giving away our plan to vote out Jess. Yeah. So much so that Banu then explicitly asked Kenzie who she should vote for. He then asked Tiffany who she should vote for and Q. This man walked into this tribal council completely safe, but then based off of one comment of being super emotional and, of course, being paranoid at the beginning of the episode. You're really on my phone for way too long.
I'm so confused.
This entire conversation right now that you...
Sorry, you should not have given me your phone.
Yes, that is his girlfriend.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm on her Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm really confused. Anyway, carry on.
It's this whole thing of Banu is very paranoid and very emotionally upset about him being labeled as emotional and that being a bad thing. And they're like, bruh, you can be emotional, but you got to get your shit together.
Yeah.
Because you're you're blowing up this block.
Which, like, they made similar comments about Carolyn, and Carolyn was like, I'm emotional. I don't know if it was Carolyn, but there was someone who was like, I'm emotional, but that's my
social game.
That's my strength.
Where it doesn't make it seem like his social game is how emotional he is.
No, and I think they're right, that the point of the fact that he can't, like, he doesn't have control over it.
No. It's very apparent that he does not have control over it. But also that not only does he not have control over it, but is so paranoid that he asks everyone, are you voting me out? Who should I vote for? Just tell me. And Kenzie's just like, vote for whoever you want to.
Like, it's your game too, bro.
And he just doesn't know what to do. And it's like, again, I understand Jess is there. Kenzie's an obvious threat. But Banu is just like, man.
How can you ever rely on his number?
Yeah.
Like, they've had the fortunate situation where it's like everyone was in agreement, we're going for Zelensky. Everyone is in agreement, we're going for Jess. What happens when you're not in agreement? You can't trust that you have his numbers.
Yeah. I mean, look at like whatever the next vote will be. Let's say they lose again. It's Tiff, Q, Kenzie, and Banu.
Banu's going home, man.
Banu is either going home or you have to work with Banu to create a blind side on one of the other three.
But who's going to do that knowing that if he gets spooked, he's probably not going to go through with it?
I don't know.
Like, who's going to be willing to blindside somebody
like they
knowing that he may not follow through?
They might want to get Kenzie out, but would Banu blow up the spot? And Kenzie's too dangerous of a threat where Kenzie is way too dangerous for Banu to talk. Kenzie can use that to her advantage. Same thing of Tiff, probably same thing of Q. You work with, if you work with Banu, you have potential of blowing up the entire plan against very strategic players.
Yeah.
So you gotta be smart with it. We get to the vote. Jess plays her fake idol. It's not an idol. Doesn't work. And the vote comes down to Banu has 1 vote from Jess. Jess gets 4 votes from everybody else. They label it as a blind side on our voting thing, but not really a blind side. I mean, I think
it's blind side in that she played the idol thinking it was real.
And it was also, I don't think maybe it's blind side, but like majority, like overwhelming majority sort of thing. But anyways, Jess goes home. So any thoughts, I guess, before we get to the point stuff and MVPs? And a little, there's another.
Ooh, I should have thought about my MVP.
I know. Me too. A little in memoriam about Jess. How you thought she was as a player? Did you like her? Any thoughts about Jess as she ends her run in Survivor?
Having Jess on my television screen for those 2 episodes, was one of the greatest joys of my Survivor experience.
Yeah.
Do I think Jess was a good player? Absolutely not. Did I completely and totally enjoy her presence on the island, watching her on TV? Yes, 1,000%.
I was enthralled by her. I loved watching her.
I loved that she was there.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching her. I thought she was hilarious and relatable. I thought she was a great personality. I don't think she was a great player.
She was a terrible player.
Yeah.
Terrible player.
Fantastic person to be on the show.
Yeah.
Not a fantastic person to play the game.
She had no strength as in physical challenge ability.
Yeah.
Because, there's also the argument of you said about like, it was, that Jess, you can make the argument that Jess messed up here or didn't mess up here as much as the rest of her team in terms of the puzzle. She was also on those puzzles with Zelensky.
That's true.
So there is also a common denominator of voting Jess out. And Tiff brought up this idea of we should have voted out Jess instead of Jelinski. Maybe Jess was the problem and not Jelinski, and Jelinski was just getting the heat.
Jelinski did quit multiple things.
Yes, and I think that's a bigger issue than anything else.
At least Jess gave it a shot.
Yeah. And I appreciate that more from her. Yeah, I liked her a lot. She just had no strength. She had no strategy whatsoever, and
seemingly no intention of actually playing the game of Survivor.
And
experiencing the experience, she was there for it.
Her best quality to her was her social game, and even then, it wasn't good. Even then, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
So, a terrible player of Survivor, a lovely person to watch. Never would I want to see her come back on Survivor in any capacity, but I would love to grab a beer with her.
Yes, I would absolutely get a drink with Jess.
I saw her Instagram. She does puppetry. One of the things she does, her husband looks to be some sort of musician, but on Instagram I noticed that she has a bit where she has a puppet and she does puppetry.
I love that.
Yeah.
Jess, if you're listening, let's get a beer.
She also
Next time you're in Atlanta.
She also runs the Instagram for her dog.
Hit us up.
Yeah.
We'll take you out for a beer.
She seems fun. I want to hang out with her. But yeah, that's Jess. That's Jess.
That's Jess. Who's that girl? It's Jess.
Perfect. MVP? Or are you looking up something?
We need to talk real quick about Liz. I can't figure it out.
Okay.
But I have a thought. Her supposed six-figure business, whatever, multiple six-figure businesses.
Sure.
Are basically teaching entrepreneurs how to market themselves, right?
At least the current one is.
Right.
She self-described it as, I teach people how to email.
Do you think Liz's appearance on Survivor is a marketing strategy?
Ooh.
For herself.
Huh. You know, that's interesting. There's a current controversy about Carson.
What?
There's a current controversy about Carson that he might have used being on Survivor as a way to market himself and market his personality a little bit. Why
is that a controversy? It's reality television. People do that.
Do you know that Carson sold merch of himself going on Survivor when I was on Survivor?
Before he was cast or before he actually got there?
After he was announced, before the show began. The season began.
Okay, that's controversial.
Do you know that Carson 3D printed his puzzles?
Yes.
Do you know that Carson, after Survivor, started a business where he sells those 3D printed puzzles so that people can try them at home?
Okay.
He started that business. It's Carson's Creations or whatever it's called. Apparently, allegedly, he did not 3D print all of those puzzles, and that the one they showed on camera was actually, it showed in video packages on the show, was not a puzzle that he 3D printed, but a puzzle from an Etsy store that you can go to and purchase Survivor puzzles.
So...
Did you know, allegedly, according to the owner of that Etsy store, that after the show, Carson had conversations with him, or them, about, allegedly, about how'd you get into your business? How do you get into this Etsy thing? You know, different aspects of like the business of their thing. And then a little bit after that, apparently, allegedly, Carson launched his own 3D printable puzzle, Survivor puzzle thing. Oh. There's this whole controversy right now that is allegedly.
It seems like, from how you're saying this, that the Etsy store owner was unaware that he was basically mentoring this guy on how to do the same thing.
Yeah, that Carson was not actually interested in learning how he does the job, but interested so that he can take it and do it himself.
Which again is like would have been fine if this guy knew he was mentoring this kid on how to start his own business.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the store owner did not know that he was mentoring this kid on how to start his own business.
Yeah. Apparently there's also a whole thing about the Survivor podcast universe where Carson and Carolyn tried to start a podcast discussing Survivor, which they're stealing our idea, but ultimately they're trying to take the idea. Apparently the controversy is
that we haven't stolen from somebody else. Yeah. The idea of having a Survivor podcast is brand new to us.
There's some controversy surrounding it about like he's trying to like take Rob Has a Podcast space, which is a whole other thing. But like, yeah, he currently has controversial things about trying to take other people's ideas and running it for himself.
Well, back to the marketing thing.
My point there is he's using Survivor to market himself.
Which, again, is not, I don't think, an out-of-the-box idea.
Especially post-Survivor.
This is reality television.
Uh-huh.
There is always some aspect to it of people going on there for visibility.
Yeah, 100%.
Whether or not they're just a fan. Like, some people just are a fan that go on these things. But, like, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, people aren't there to find love for the most part. There are a few that are. And some of them, I'm sure, wouldn't object to it. But a lot of the times, it's to get screen time.
Yeah.
Which is why you get these crazy entrances from, like, the limo is because they're not, I mean, they may be trying to be the most memorable for The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. But really also, they really want screen time because they're trying to break into acting or reality TV or whatever. So it's not really that out of the box that somebody on Survive. It's a little bit more of a commitment to do it that way. It's easier to get on another show where you don't have to live on an island for 26 days or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibilities that somebody going on Survivor would be hoping that they could get some sort of fame or visibility or screen time or credits afterward.
Yeah.
But with Liz, I'm specifically talking about the fact that she doesn't need the money. She's not there for the money. She's there for the title.
Uh-huh.
The way that she presents herself...
Keeps bringing up her businesses.
And keeps bringing up her businesses makes me think that Liz is doing this to market herself.
Yeah. I brought up the whole thing about Carson because that idea is that he's using Survivor after the fact to market himself.
Everybody does that.
But you're supposing the idea that she's going into Survivor to specifically market herself.
Yeah.
She had this premeditated.
With Carson, who hasn't done that?
Yeah. I mean, Rob has a podcast.
Look at everyone's Instagrams after Survivor. Like
the biggest Survivor podcast, Rob Has a Podcast, is hosted by a former Survivor player.
That's what I'm saying. Is like, of course, you were on TV for like one of the longest running reality TV shows of all time. You're gonna have like an audience now. Yeah. So you're gonna do something with it. I don't think that's weird. I think that's just how things work now.
Yeah.
I think
maybe stealing other people's idea is weird.
That's weird. That part is weird. But
allegedly.
Just the way that she presents herself, I wonder if part of going on this was like, oh, I do like Survivor. That'd be fun. And I have this business where I teach people to market themselves. And if people know how successful I am, like, I don't know. I feel like, at least subconsciously, it must be innate to her being in this field to want to market herself on TV.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was any part of the motivation of going on. But just like the way that she presents herself, I'm like, this feels like...
It's sus.
This feels like a marketing campaign.
That's plausible. Certainly plausible. MVPs. Jesus Christ. I know. I think the MVPs here are hard because to me...
No one does anything.
Well, it's also like there are people that like gather negativity stuff about them as well. Like you could argue maybe like Tevin, but then he kind of gets his heat versus him and Venus. I sat here thinking I could literally only think of one person that is worthy of an MVP in my opinion. I'll explain it
Charlie for winning the song competition.
I legitimately thought about Charlie. I sat here legitimately thinking about Charlie. But I figured out someone else that I think is a solid MVP and the most valuable player on Survivor this episode. So are you ready? Mm-hmm. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Q.
Brandon.
Really?
Yes. He was on the winning tribe of Nami at number 1. He found the Beware advantage. He was the one that created a new alliance of Venus. And he got no heat on him this entire time.
I should have said Brandon, so I got bonus. Do we each get bonus points, or no? It's only if we see the same person.
5 points for each MVP thing. So Randon gets a bonus 5 points. You said Q. Why Q?
The only reason that their little idol plan worked was because Q was like, I got this.
And put himself in the power position to make
And yeah, and
the second week in a row, really. 'Cause
right.
He was the one that really pushed for Jelinski.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like there wasn't a lot to choose from here, but I feel like Q stood out to me. And again, the only reason that their plan worked was because he was like, I got this.
I think that's completely fair. I think that's a good point. I think the one detraction obviously is that they ended up losing again.
Yeah, and also that like he immediately kind of voted out his power position.
Yeah.
But
and that was also a reason why I thought Charlie was because Charlie, number 1, won a song off challenge against Ben. 2, got second place, I guess, in Immunity Challenge, but also was in a power position. You could also say the same thing for Maria, I guess, of creating a new alliance. Like Maria put herself in the power position. Charlie made his position better, stronger. His power position better and stronger.
Stronger.
Q actively put himself by taking the fake idol idea and running with it, taking the ball and running with it.
Yeah.
He put himself in the position to ultimately decide who goes home.
Yeah.
So I think that's a completely fair reason. First episode, we did not do points. Episode 2, we are. Everybody gets points here. We're going off of global.tv, which is the same point fantasy survivor point thing that we did last season, and we're doing it again this season. Our teams are Jesse, you have Kenzie, Randon, Soda, Tiffany, and Ben. I have Gem, Hunter, Venus, Mariah, and Q. And Jerry, friend of the show, has Charlie, Tevin, Maria, Banu, and Liz. So we'd like to go through, Jess, who has which points for which players.
I would love to. So for Jerry's team,
okay,
we have Tevin with 11 points, Maria with 11 points, Charlie with 11 points, Liz with 11 points. She's got a lot of 11-point players here.
A lot of that is because they won 5 points for winning immunity challenge, 5 points for winning reward, and 1 point for surviving the week. I should probably be reading those things off
as I go.
Anyone that has 11 points is basically that: winning immunity, winning reward, surviving the week. And a lot of people, basically Sika and Nami, a lot of those people all have 11 points.
Yeah, and
go ahead. No?
What were you going to say?
I was going to say I believe only one person is less than 11 points, and you are about to bring it up.
That would be Banu with, drum roll please, 1 point.
Yikes.
And that is for surviving the week. So Jerry's team has a whopping total of 45 points.
Correct.
Ryan, you had Gem.
Correct.
And
I assume 11 points.
Yeah, 11 points. You had Hunter, who also got 11 points.
Mm-hmm.
You got Venus.
Yes.
Who actually got 11 points.
Oh.
Yeah, and you have Mariah.
Uh-huh.
With a whopping total of 11 points.
You're really playing this out here.
And then there's Q.
Okay.
Who successfully had a fake idol played for 15 points.
Yes.
And survived the week for 1 point. So you have 16 points, plus your bonus points of 5. So 21 for Q.
There we go.
With your total being 65 points.
Correct. So Jerry's at 45, I'm at 65. Jesse, how many points did you get?
I got a few.
I want the record to show that she is really stretching this out.
I had Randon, who won a group reward, won group immunity, found an advantage, and survived the week for 16 points.
Plus the extra 5.
Plus the extra 5 bonus points, so 21 points for Randon.
Okay.
I had Soda with 11 points. No, that's not right. Yes, that is right. 11 points.
Yeah.
I did the same thing you did when you looked at it. There's a typo here.
Yeah.
I
Ben?
had Ben. I know.
All right.
Give me a hot second.
Okay.
Give me a hot second to read and comprehend.
This whole segment is taking a hot second.
That's the point. I'm milking it. Get with it. Okay, so Ben won a group award, won group immunity, cried on camera, woot woot, as did most of my team, and survived the week. So I have Ben with 16 points.
We'll let the record show currently you have 48 points before you have 2 more players.
I have Tiffany, who cried on camera, created a fake idol, said a curse word, successfully had a fake idol played, and survived the week for 41 points.
Jesus Christ.
And I had Kenzie, who
real quickly, 41 points. Jerry's entire team got her 45. Tiffany got you 41.
Yeah.
And what did Kenzie get?
She cried on camera, created a fake idol, said a curse word, successfully had a fake idol played, and survived the week for another 41 points, which brings my total to
Oh my God.
130 points.
That's correct.
Baby.
130 points.
Now you see why I was milking it. I wanted you all to know my team crushed it.
Yeah, you crush this first episode, 130 points in first place, obviously, is you. Nearly doubling exactly doubling, I think, right? My total of 65 points and tripling Jerry's points at 45. So it's first place you, second place me, third place Jerry.
Yeah.
That's real bad. That's a real big jump for you. Massive jump. And
I'm a little smug about it.
a little. So that's not good. 130.
I think it's great.
Obviously. Who do you think's gonna go home next week if you had to pick?
If Yanu loses again, Banu's going home.
I think there's a possibility if Yanu loses again, it could be either Banu or Kenzie. If they can rally the troops and get Kenzie out. Or I guess there's also a possibility that could be Q. But I think that's going to come down to really Tiff and who she wants to get out. And I get the impression that Tiff would rather work with Q than Kenzie.
Yes, I agree. I think she trusts Q a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with that. If Nami loses, I think we already mentioned before, Venus or Liz.
Yeah. I think so.
Unless Venus and Randon can do something and get in another person and then get an idol. You know, I guess if he gets the idol, they don't necessarily bring in another person and they can just give it to Venus and save her and then they can vote out whoever they wanted. But it really, ultimately, I feel like it's going to be Venus or Liz.
Yeah, I think that it's high probability it's one of those two.
And then if it's Siga, no idea. Siga all just feels comfortable. It's either going to be, it's a 50-50 shot. It's either Ben or Tim, and I think it's most likely Tim.
Yeah.
Or it's either Jem or Mariah. Then, yeah, I think that's a coin flip on that one. So,
we shall see.
Open seasons. It all comes down to who wins next episode and if we get any other bonus stuff. The preview only sort of saw Venus being mad now at Hunter. That's all I really remember from the preview. There was a boat coming in, so they're definitely teasing something. Maybe it is like a swap, a trade ski sort of thing. So I guess we'll find out in the next episode of Survivor. We've been going real long. Plugs. What is your thing that you want people to know, or whatever to, you know what I'm trying to say. What do you want people to know?
Check your basement when it rains.
Our basement didn't flood, but it did stream.
Yeah.
I've got like maybe an inch of water in the basement and like the specific arc, not the entire floor, but just like an arc of water.
Because it ran all the way conveniently into the crawl space, which is also a problem. But maybe just check your basement when it rains. Invest in a shop vac.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. That's one of the first like homeowner type purchases we made. And honestly, that thing has come in handy and saved our butts
So much.
so many times.
Getting all the dust and dirt out of there first, and then the water, obviously, when it just flooded.
If you own your home, or if you rent a house, or if you live in a place where you're in a lower level or whatever, I would highly suggest a shop vac. They're not too expensive. You can get them in different sizes depending on your needs. And it's a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Water, not great. Water that you don't get rid of is mold.
When you don't want water in your house, use a shop vac.
And when you don't want to leave water because mold, shop vac.
Yeah. Pretty simple.
Highly recommend. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I think that's a good recommendation. My recommendation is I never really have one for these. But my recommendation is to watch Bob's Burgers. It's a good show.
Yeah.
We've been watching it. I watched it like years ago, but only like the first couple seasons. But now you and I are watching it and slowly going through it, and it's a lot of fun. I think it's like
I enjoy it.
The fact that there are like 1 billion seasons of Bob Burgers. You and I, especially you, post work or whatever, really need like a comfort comedy show.
Yeah.
And now that we've fully gotten through Taskmaster, Bob's Burgers is like 1 billion seasons long. Plus, they have a movie, so that like we will be satiated, I think, for a while.
Yeah.
I think that all the seasons.
We won't fall in love with a show that will end up either being canceled or will only have 4 seasons.
Yeah,
and we'll suddenly run out of it.
And you and I don't really want to get into like Parks and Rec or like The Office or.
I already watched Parks and Rec.
And me too. And I never watched The Office, and I don't think you and I are too interested in we're not those people that rewatch.
I've watched The Office. I'm not a Office rewatcher. The show that I will rewatch for the rest of eternity and never get bored of it.
Fans of the show know this.
Is Psych.
Yeah.
1000%. There's a Psych convention. Oh my God, there's gonna be a Psych convention in June. I don't know if
really?
I'm not a convention person, but I might go to this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
I don't know. It's in Chicago.
Oh.
Who wants to go with me?
Not
you? Well, Liv might go with me.
Yeah, Liv might get with you. Well, she might have to. There's a whole Liv child thing, but yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways,
Anyways,
Burgers. Get a shop vac.
Get a shop vac.
It's worth it. Don't let anyone tell you it's not worth it. It is worth it.
Lifesaver.
You can also use it to inflate air mattresses.
That's true.
Bye.
All right. See everybody next week for the next episode of Scurvivor Series. Email us scurvivorseries@gmail.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you just want to watch a audio version of this. But of course, subscribe to the podcast if this is your first time listening. We'll be back next week for the all new episode talking about episode 3 of Scurvivor. So until then, that's Jess. I'm Ryan.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.